Welcome, Natasha.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So you've promoted and marketed some of the biggest brands around.
I guess I have.
So I'm curious about how NKPR got up and running.
I started NKPR in 2002, so 22 years now, almost 23. And I really started it with a mandate of I wanted to pick and choose who I work with and what I work on. I was living in New York. I moved back to Toronto. And I remember at the time, I was sort of debating between two paths. One was public relations, and the other one was to be a writer. And I chose to do PR. And so I had, at the time when I had started NKPR just before, I was working at an ad agency, and I had started the PR division there. And what I realized pretty quickly is I love what I'm doing, but I want to be able to pick and choose what I'm promoting and who I'm working with. And so I decided at that point that I would go on my own. And I thought I was actually going to freelance. I wasn't necessarily certain that it was going to turn into what NKPR has become. Mm-hmm. But I believe that if you are true to yourself and really think about your intention, so who you work with, what you work on, the universe kind of helps to guide you. And so within the first year, Visa Canada was a client of mine. I was leveraging their film festival sponsorships across Canada, so Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. And CIBC became a client of mine. And so it was just initially me working out of my basement, and then within 12 months it was me, 3 other employees, and I had an office.
And did you start, this was NKPR, right from get-go?
Right from the get-go.
I
just felt like it's my name. Yeah, I mean, I definitely have that entrepreneurial spirit. And hence why now, fast forward 22 years later, we invest in brands. So a lot of companies will come to us and with a concept and idea, right, and I'll invest in it financially, and I'll invest, our resources behind it. Flow Water is a good example of that.
Well, that leads me to my next question, which is their clients, they invest hundreds and thousands, if not millions of dollars into high stakes marketing plans, or campaigns rather. So they put their trust in you. What's the most stressful part of your job?
I don't know if it's stressful, but I feel very obviously responsible for every campaign. For every dollar a client spends with us, I want to make sure they get $100 plus in return. So that's also the entrepreneurial side, is that you feel this real sense of responsibility in making sure that you're not doing PR for the sake of doing PR, that we're always really clear, whoever we work with, what does success look like? What defines success? So I can make sure that I take all the tools that I have in my toolbox and make sure that we can deliver what actually matters to them. And I think that's what makes us unique, is that it's not a one size fits all. It is us always thinking about what can we do? What do we have access to that will actually, do what is meant to be done for that particular client. And so I'm not sure it's stressful. I think it's just I feel very responsible. No matter how large we are as an agency, I feel it. I feel that with every single client, and I think I should feel that.
Well, that's very inspiring, because you're doing your personal touch there. That that's going to mean it's inevitable. It's going to be successful. Yeah. So where is your entrepreneurial drive coming from? Is it just innate within you, or did someone perhaps mentor you or guide you in that direction?
No, I think it's just probably for me, coming from, I was born in Kiev, and we immigrated to Italy, and then from there we immigrated to Canada. And I think some of that is watching, my parents come to a new country with, very little resources, and creating this amazing life for themselves. And I watched them work really hard. And so an entrepreneurial spirit is really someone that's prepared to work hard, someone that's prepared to put in the time, the heart, and push through to become successful. And so I've watched my parents do it. And so I think,
what better role model is that?
I think so, for sure, right? And so I think it stems from that, for sure, being able to create the life that you really want.
I'm actually going to jump ahead because this is a question I was going to ask a little later, but I feel like it fits in right now because you and your NKPR company, part of who you are is giving back, doing charity work, and you support countless charities. And I was going to say that your parents, as I understood it, when they immigrated to Canada, the United Jewish Appeal, if I'm right, they supported you. They really, and I'm wondering if they inspired you to be, charitable giving, if that was if they were the ones, or was it, what inspired you?
No, they did for sure. I did a TED Talk a few years back. It was about the power of showing up.
Okay.
And I actually talked about the United Jewish Appeal because we came to a new country. We couldn't speak the language. We didn't know anybody. We didn't have anything with us, really. And I remember the UJA coming to our, apartment. They gave us clothes. They brought us food. They checked in on us. They brought us toys for my sister and I. It makes me even emotional talking about it because these are strangers that came to help us get settled. And so I never forgot that. And so you can imagine as a little girl seeing strangers coming to help you. Of course that stuck with me because then as I became an adult, I realized that I too have that responsibility to make sure that I do that for others. And so yes, at NKPR we're very philanthropic. If you look at all the work that we do with Artists for Peace and Justice, where we've helped raise $35 million for the children and the people of Haiti. We've built the very first free high school in Haiti, and we've helped 31,000 kids get an education in Haiti where they would normally not have had that opportunity. That definitely stems from what I personally experienced when I was a young girl, with the United Jewish Appeal.
Really becomes full circle, and it's such a mitzvah. I mean, there's no greater mitzvah than what you're doing with your company and helping others with your charitable giving.
Well, and I try and do that with my team as well. We have a team of about, let's say, 40 people, and they're young people. And so we do something called 26 Hours of Kindness, where they get to choose a charity that we give back to. And the whole point of that is for them to get exposure to what it feels like to actually give of yourself and give back, with the hopes of, whether they continue working for NKPR or move on, that they do that as well. And I just think it's so important, and it's getting lost in the world because of social media.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think, well, if I repost something, that's me being philanthropic.
Right.
Well, it's not really.
Not really.
And so you actually, to me, it's a giving of yourself. And even if you have $1 to give, like when I look at Haiti, $1 in Haiti supports an entire family. So we need to recognize how fortunate we are.
Understand that.
Yeah.
$1, just $1, and what
People live on $1 a day in Haiti.
Wow. Natasha, how have your Jewish values informed your career and your phenomenal success in the world of branding, public relations, and digital marketing?
Well, it goes back to when I was a little girl. I watched and witnessed people that didn't know us helping us, and that was the Jewish community. I have felt like I'm a part of something greater than myself, and so to me, that is being Jewish. And it was interesting because when we moved from Kiev, Kiev at the time was quite anti-Semitic. They really they wanted the Jewish people out of Kiev, and so hence why my parents immigrated. But then we immigrated to Alberta, where I remember going to school and a teacher had said, "I've never met a Jewish person before." And I thought, well, is this normal? I wasn't sure because in Alberta there just aren't a lot of Jewish people. And I remember my mom would actually keep the menorah, under the counter and not keep it out. And it was one of the reasons why we actually moved to Toronto. And then I remember moving to Toronto and feeling like, okay, so in Alberta I was too Jewish, in Ontario I'm not Jewish enough.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of interesting as a young person to experience all of that. But I definitely felt that when we moved to Toronto, that I felt like I was part of a community. And I loved that.
So you've been called a master of reshaping public perception and brand recovery. So I have one for you. Anti-Semitism is rising at an alarming rate all over the world. If you were put in charge of a new international Fight Anti-Semitism campaign, where would you start?
A tough one.
I mean, yeah, no pressure there. I mean, I really would start with young people. I feel like there's all this misinformation out there.
That's my
And
next question.
yeah, I think that is actually the biggest issue is the misinformation, and it travels very quickly at the speed of light because of social media. And so I actually feel that I would start with young people to try and educate them on the truth, what is real and what is not, whatever that is, because I just think we're really misinformed. I'm not sure I can come up with a campaign for you, like, off the top of my head right now, but I do think that there is this need to make sure that it's the right information that is getting put out there. And I think that's part of the
So
part of the
what
problem.
do you think, though, needs to change to get that right information out there to combat, to combat the misinformation, right?
I mean, that's
Jew hatred.
it's a bigger issue than
really is.
just this. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just the fact that there's so much fake news out there, not just about the issues that we're facing today politically, but just the like you look at, like, when I was young, we would watch the news, and you knew that the news was a trusted source. We don't have that anymore, because if you look at the news, it's swayed left or it sways right. And if you look at social media, where most young people get their information, it's wrong.
Exactly.
And so the bigger issue is, like, we have a big problem that actually needs to fix. That's not just the question that you asked me, but it's really looking at, like, when Elon Musk buys Twitter and calls it X, and then he leans a certain direction, then everything leans that direction. And so that's the bigger issue. And then when you look at news outlets today and they're not getting the funding that they need, then we're not, or the funding that they're getting also sways the content that they put out there because it's based on, whoever the advertisers are. That's another issue. So I do think the government actually in every country just needs to step in. Like, we are surrounded
However,
by.
the government is divided, right?
That's the problem
This
too.
is-
So there's a real problem.
But I do feel people like yourself who have a platform, and speak to the younger generation, they're going to listen. But it's tough. It's tough.
But I would say, even for myself, like, I need to dig so deep to get real information, and I look for it. So can you imagine the people that aren't looking for it and they're just scrolling and trying to decipher and trying to figure it out? I think that's part of the challenge. And I think that, to answer your question, I just think that we need to all be so much more responsible and mindful of what we're putting out there. I find that with myself every day. I recognize that young people might look up to me, so I'm so mindful of that, and I want to make sure that I'm the best person I can be, so that would inspire them to do the same.
I actually love your social media posts, that the positivity that you are generating.
I never
Because-
post anything negative
Yeah.
because I just feel like I don't want to put anything negative out into the
So I don't
world.
think it represents who you are. Brand recovery. A brand has been smeared. How do you recover from that?
I think it just depends what the situation is. Cancel culture is a thing. We've seen it. I think sometimes
What does that mean, cancel culture?
Well, cancel culture, where we've seen the Me Too movement. We've seen so many different movements in the last 4 years,
Right.
and in some ways it has helped level things out a bit. But I think in other cases, it's and we've just seen it with Blake Lively, for example, where they keep talking about that she's about to get canceled, and I think that there is some unfairness to that. Because then we become a bully culture instead of a cancel, what they're calling it as cancel culture. And I think that's so wrong. I think we need to give people the opportunity, and brands the opportunity, to defend themselves, explain themselves, whatever the case is. I think we jump on bandwagons so quickly, and I do believe we need to stop doing that. I also think brands are so quick to want to respond to comments or respond to a situation, and sometimes I think the best thing to do is not respond, to let something just ride itself out, and then you come back from it. I just think there's this It's almost like I find I never respond to an email that someone might have sent me that might not be favorable immediately. I might draft it, I'll sit on it, and then read it the next day and probably never send it. And so it's the same thing that I often recommend when we're doing crisis management is let's just look at this, because let's look at it from every single angle, and sometimes the best thing to do is nothing. And because right now, like what's in the news today will actually not be in the news tomorrow.
So what trends now are you seeing? And how do you stay ahead of the curve?
I mean, I'm a big believer in creating your own trends as opposed to necessarily following them. So, excuse me. So I do believe that we should be creating our own. But yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I could add too much to that, but I am a big believer in sort of creating our own trends.
So is it hard for a popular brand to succeed without a good social media strategy? And what would make for a successful social
Well,
media?
you need social, you absolutely need a social media strategy. Social media now, if I think about Instagram as an example, and if you think about retail, you need Instagram because Instagram almost acts as your website, right? Because you can now sell from your Instagram. It creates a lifestyle. So you absolutely do. And then if you think about LinkedIn, you need that as well from a business perspective. So you use your social channels for different purposes depending on the channel that you're either focusing on or how you communicate and who you're communicating to. So social media to me, like the digital world, is essential to the success of almost any business, no matter what the business is.
Okay. But what makes it successful? Like just
Well, it's not so much, so you need it to your point, like you actually need a strategy for every single platform.
Okay.
And what would determine success would be what is it that you need it to do. So if you're a retail brand, you would probably want to be able to really create a great lifestyle brand within your social media channel. So that would mean looking at influencer programming. That would mean, really great like video content. That would mean making sure that you can actually sell from your social media feed so that if someone sees something and they like it, that they can instantly purchase it, because we're living in a distracted world right now. So someone's not going from your Instagram and then maybe to your website and then maybe to your store. They're not doing that. They want it right away. So you need to make sure that you're creating a function that allows them to do it right away. Even with our gala that we do for Artists for Peace and Justice, we want to make sure that people are able to make a donation instantly. So we have a QR code so that they can do it right away. And so, because otherwise 3 hours from then or the next morning, they're onto something else. And that's just how we're living these days.
So is there a particular story or experience that you want to share that maybe has defined your career? Because I know you've worked with some high profile clients and numerous celebrities as well. Something that stands out? Or?
I mean, I think that there's so many lessons you're always learning when you're an entrepreneur. But I remember one of the early ones was to make sure that you're diversifying your business. And I'll tell you what that is. So in the first 3 years of my business, the first 3 or 4 years of my business, I put a lot of attention to to CIBC, which they were like a big client. I worked really closely at the time with John Hunkin, who was the CEO, and Stephen Graham, who was the CMO. We worked on all of their philanthropic initiatives and all of their marketing programs. And I put all my resources into that, not realizing that when John Hunkin retires and there's a new CEO, that usually that also means that they bring in new marketing people. There's changes. And so what that taught me, and I remember we worked with them for 4 years. They were an amazing client. And then I got my notice. It was like, 90 days. We really appreciated the work. They let go of the CMO at the time too. And I was just like, wow, what a lesson. You need to you can't just focus on the, 2 or 3 clients that you have. You need to think about what are all the other brands and products and things that you want to be working on. And so it was a lesson because it gave me 90 days to look for other clients. And then now when I look at today, our business isn't structured based on industry. It's structured based on what do I love? We love real estate, so we do so much in that space. I love fashion. We do a lot in that space. technology. So we have Lightspeed as a client, on the technology side. So we have clients in probably every single industry. And so that lesson, 20 years ago served me so well today, because we're very well diversified as an agency.
Well, thank you so much, Natasha, for joining me here
Thank
on J Weekly
you.
Canada and just chatting. Lovely getting to know you, and continued success.
Thank you. I appreciate it.